when you get to know these people, I mean, they're working 20 hours a day if they can, daylight to dark. Every chance they get, they're doing something. And this includes little kids. They're actually given tasks to do. When you see somebody working like that, just simply to survive, and you got an extra can of beans, you make sure that they got it. Right. That's just how it is. You actually look at that and go, man, you know, that little kid's hungry. And you open a can of beans and you make sure, and sometimes you stop and you sit down and you make sure that they eat it. Sure, you can use the can for a landmine later. Yeah, well, collect the can, take it with you. But you see people that are you know, little kids that are bony. I mean, their bones are sticking out because they hadn't had enough to eat. And the reason is that they got fish heads and rice to eat. Maybe. That message with you. You remember these things. So, I don't see it as a right. Here we are. We're extraordinarily wealthy. We got the best weapons in the world. We're going to take automatic weapons, M16s, and grenades, and go through and kill everybody? Well, you give me a good reason, and I'll consider that. If somebody's shooting at me, that's different. These people not only didn't have any weapons, but they would actually come in the night, and they would come up to our position, certain positions, and say, hey, man, yeah, who is it? And they'd tell you their name. And you say, okay, and you'd ask them a question. They'd answer the question correctly. You knew you was talking to the right person. They didn't answer the question correctly. You pulled the trigger. Right. But they would tell, you know, hey, you got a bunch of them coming at you from the other side over that way in that little gullet. And 9 times out of 10, it was correct. And this one little village, and these villages were all over, friendly villages, and we made sure they had plenty to eat. We made sure any kind of needs they had were taken care of. We gave them medical care, you name it. I mean, this was an asset to us because unless you've been in the jungle, or another example would be in the sand, unless you've been in a condition of that nature, you got no clue. So this was my reason for wanting to abscond with a politician, bring him over and run him to a couple of ice patties, get him a couple of good sets of leeches going on his butt, and put him back. Give him some kind of first-hand taste.
And these people you're describing are the ones that you were given the Category 1 seek and destroy orders against. Yes,
and we told them no. Most of the people in our unit knew for a fact that these were friendlies. We had dealt with them. They invite us in and would feed us when they didn't have any food hardly.
I mean, what was the reasoning? Did you guys try to understand why they would want this done? I mean, what could possibly...
Never did find out the reason for the order. The orders were arbitrary in a lot of cases.
Right.
There's a book about Vietnam called The Bright and Shining Lie, and I suggest everybody get a hold of a copy of it, and it will give you a good idea as to what kind of a mess that was. Now, what we're dealing with here is something a little different. A lot of people say, ooh, insurrectionist. No, because you're not trying to infiltrate a government and take it over. You're not an invader. You're not trying to bring a bunch of people in, unlike certain people in certain agencies that like to play games with guns across the border down south. Unlike those people, you're not trying to do any of that. It's not illegal because it's a notification process only. But it does give the military the authority, in terms of civilian authority, under the Constitution, to take action according to the betterment of our way of life. This restores the American dream of mom and apple pie, being able to be peaceful and not have to worry about a whole lot of things.
Well, I would assume that the majority of retired personnel from the military, active personnel from the military, special forces, black operations guys, that most of the people who are hearing this are going to realize that if something like this starts to happen, they want to be involved. But right now, they're feeling like they've been given the mushroom treatment. They're sitting in the dark being fed a lot of BS. And let's assume that most of these people want to get involved. They want to know what to do once the time comes. What do you tell them?
Look at it in terms of following the constitutional premise of lawful order. A lawful order will not put you into a police situation. It does not call for roadblocks. It does not call for martial law. It does not in any way interfere directly with the civilian population and its operation. What a lawful order does is it allows you to stay out of those areas in such a fashion that you can carry out whatever duty it is. And it could be any kind of a thing. It could be playing war games or whatever, maneuvers. You might go down and assist somebody with logs. You never know. It could be strictly a preparedness or ready training thing. Well, we got to get these guys ready, see how quick they can get their gear, put them in the truck, take them over here, and can you hump up over that hill? How long does that take? These kinds of things are lawful orders. If there were to be an invasion, and I understand that that's been offered and turned down, the difference between that is you're going to have people trying to come across the border for the strict purpose of taking you out. That's different. The other part of this was I was requested to contact as many of the underground as I could, to include militias, to include freedom groups, to include the people by themselves that just happen to have a gun, or kind of like me, too much hillbilly, too red over the neck, and I got too many guns and live in the woods. The premise for my contacting those people was to tell them to get ready, because this is coming. It's not going to be stopped. And it's coming a lot sooner than people think. And the other part of it is, don't, under any circumstances, engage our military. That's not what this is about. You find out from them, what's up? Oh, we're just going down here. Okay. Sometimes some of these people will be contacted to assist them. In other words, this is going to be an all-out effort in this country, and it's going to take a lot of people. There are a considerable number who need to be removed from office or their responsibilities and contained, retained, and arrested. Now, my understanding is they're planning to populate the FEMA camps with all these dinks. And I feel that's appropriate. They build them for us. Now they go take a camping trip in them.
Karma is a bitch.
Yeah. So I'm looking at that. Okay. Afterwards, doing this is not, to me, as extraordinarily anxietal as a lot of people would think. I'm not as concerned with this part of it as I am what comes after. There's going to be some interruption. In other words, you need to get some extra toilet paper and a few extra canned goods, and I'm talking about have enough for, say, a month or two. And that should basically cover the lapse in time. Not all the trucks are going to be running, so there's grocery that gets cleaned out when everybody thinks that the world's gone mad, or like they do during a hurricane.
Right.
Then, if it doesn't get resupplied, what are you going to do? Well, this is why we got extra food. This is why a lot of people up here do. This is why people up here raise their own gardens. Simply, you can stuff and you put it up. And having that extra not only is less expensive than going to the grocery, but just in case something does screw up real bad, and it's coming, for the, say, 10 days, I don't know how many people consider the importance of this, but to me, being civilized does equate to the use of certain hygienic items, and one of those that I know of that to me is extraordinarily important is simple, plain old toilet paper. It might behoove people to think about not being able to go down to the grocery when you run out and get some more. And I'm going to tell you, newspaper doesn't make it. It's hard on certain things that you don't want to rough up. Well, very simply, you have to think in terms of what do you use, okay, and what do you use commonly, and what are the convenience items that might not be part of a shipment that does make it through, okay, or does get to you, it's not considered a survival level item. Well, toilet paper, simple tissues for your nose, sanitary napkins for ladies.
And people can subsist on simple rice and beans. All these elaborate products that a lot of these freedom sites are selling are not really necessary. It might make it more comfortable, but If somebody's really at poverty level, you can get by with just buying some kidney beans and some brown rice and just keep that in your pantry.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't take a lot. The idea is this, okay? Yeah, lay up some extra toilet paper. If you're lucky, find it on sale, go at it that way. If you find something that you know really tastes extraordinarily good, but it's a $1.49 and they got the other ones for 2 for $1, take the 2 for $1. It's not that much different, and you can make out just fine on it. Add a little bit of spices to it, and you're good. But anyway, the survival part I don't think is going to be all that critical, and I'll tell you why. The plan itself reiterates many times, the portion that I read, that this is to be a non-interruptive, non-chaotic, peaceful, meaning non-shooting type of an action. And that is an extraordinary difference between all these people out here saying, oh boy, rosin up your gun, get your bullets out, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition, they're coming. Well, yeah, they're going down the road because they need to go over and secure the power plant that the bad guys would like to blow up.
And I would also encourage people, because I know, as I said, there are many people out there who are playing a game, and the game is that everything they hear must not be true. So they're going to say every single thing this guy Drake is saying is not true, and this is all a pretext for martial law and for New World Order. So I would say to them, and you can address them as well, but I want to say something first, and that is, let's realistically consider that if arrests start to be made and that evidence is provided, that is progress no matter what. Even if it is ultimately, and that might be as far as they could think of it in their own mind, one negative faction against another negative faction. The fact is, let's be honest, how many bankers went to jail during the bailouts? How many people have ever been held accountable for anything? If we start seeing real accountability, by God, that's progress, and I don't care what you think, you've got to be able to see that it's a step forward no matter what. If you start seeing mass arrests, something has changed, and it breaks out of that thing that goes back to the Masons, which is everybody who's in on it gets a free pass.
Exactly. My suggestion is to, yes, be ready, but also relax, be calm, cool, and collected, and slow to pull the trigger. Unless somebody acts unfriendly towards you, I wouldn't necessarily take any aggressive action toward them. Wait and see. Yeah, you can let them walk right up to you. It doesn't matter. As I said, this plan calls for a combination of the things that our original documents call for. And the basis of this is to officially remove those people who tax you to death for no good reason other than to put it in their pocket. This is to remove the private central banking system. This is to remove a whole load of regulations and regulatory agencies that don't serve any purpose other than control. In other words, this is the freedom. Now, with that freedom comes the responsibility of being what you're supposed to be to everybody that you come across. This is contained in the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Say hi to somebody. Wouldn't you like somebody to say hi and wave at you? It feels good. Okay?
Well, let me also point out that in my book, The Source Field Investigations, I quote from the American Federation of Scientists, which says that there's been over 5,000 patents that were classified for national security, and this includes automatically any patent that gets above 70% efficiency at converting energy is automatically classified. So what that means is anybody who invents anything that could challenge oil, you will never see it. Wow. And all that stuff needs to be released. And I know that that's part of what you all are planning on doing here.
Well, that's part of the plan, but some of that is already coming out, too.
Right.
And the reason for that is that the bad guys, I'll say, have lost a considerable amount of a combination of things. One of those is their power base. They can't say, well, I'm the mucky muck, do so, and have it done. The other part is they don't have the cash on hand, the finances, to pay the bad guys that work for them.
Yeah, mercenaries don't work if you don't pay their salary.
Exactly. So you get a situation where they have lost most of their power. They're beginning to lose most of the finance. And I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you, to wake up tomorrow morning and find out that the nation had been clamped down. Now, that clampdown is complete. The satellite systems will not work. You will not be allowed to make international calls. There's going to be no traffic in or out of the United States, period.
Now, hang on, Drake, because you said that it would be a court-martialing offense and unlawful orders if any soldiers would block roads. And now you're saying that air traffic is going to be blocked. How do those two things line up?
Hold on and listen.
Okay.
This is a neat one. The closure, of our national borders does come under the military auspices of control. They are allowed to do so in the event of extraordinary circumstances. This extraordinary circumstance deals with the freedom of our country. And the crooks who would take every last dime in this country with them when they decided to run for the hills.
Well, yeah, and the average person has now heard about Muppetgate, where this guy Greg Smith, who was an executive chairman at Goldman Sachs, comes forward and says that he saw internal memos and that the prevailing climate there was toxic and destructive, and that the only thing they cared about was sucking as much money out of their clients as they could, and they called them Muppets, which is a British term that means a stupid, ignorant person.
Well, if you want to get down to the crux of it, I rather imagine most people remember the great fall of the stock market back 07, 08.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. One of the reasons it went as deep as it did, and we were lucky, one of the reasons it went as deep as it did was that trillions of dollars were automatically sent electronically out of the country. This was noticed because there are people that watch this thing called stock watch, money followers, things of that nature, and it automatically set off an alarm, which a guy noticed, and their communications got cut. Or it would have been a 1933 all over again. They did save us that much.
You're saying trillions with a T were flying out of the country?
Yes, and this happened within a matter of about 7 minutes.
Jesus.
Okay, now, the reason that the satellites are going to be turned off is to protect us from that.
I see.
The reason for no international travel is to keep the bankers from loading up a Learjet and taking off. If they do so, they will be shot down. This is going to be a complete total clampdown for a period of 72 hours, if need be. Now, it should take about 24 hours for the sweep necessary, mass arrest and all this stuff. Secondary sweep will probably take another 5 or 6 to make sure they got all the records necessary to convict these people. The other part of this is that there are certain areas that are sensitive that may contain explosive charges of varying kinds in order to blow up a record. You've seen a lot of these in movies lately where they blow things up and there's big balls of fire. Well,
absolutely.
That sort of explosive takes out records like you wouldn't believe. Okay, so in order to protect against that, this is the reason, for the closure. Now, this is a limited operation. At the time that they know that it is cleared, that the military portion of the action has been culminated, then, and I say military, the military backs the federal marshals who use the local police, etc. After that action is taken, we are going to have about a day's time to make sure that this goes viral on the internet. Hey, guess what? Look at this. And there will be some video supplied, as I understand it. I didn't know about this until just the other day.
Well, I may be talking out of school here, but I think you're underestimating it when you say the word some. I have been informed that there are DVDs upon DVDs worth of productions, some of which involve some very famous names that people will immediately recognize narrating these productions. And these productions will be apparently airing on television, nothing else, for 5 days running. and it's going to be wall to wall, and they're going to just be educating people about everything they need to know. That's what I heard.
There's another aspect to this.
Okay.
They're going to have what's called a specific education channel. That channel is going to run specifics as to the origins of these guys, the manner in which they accomplished what they did, and how the bad guys got in charge, basically. The DVDs you're talking about are similar, but this is a direct education thing, I understand. It could be, now, and it's not going to be limited to 5 days. This is going to run for several months, because what it's going to do is out this, in terms of the bad guys and their structure, how they took over and how to prevent it. After that, then, you get into what's called county projects, which lead to state projects, which leads to national projects. You're going to have enough people vacating from office that there's going to be an extraordinary immediate need for people who can step up temporarily, now I'm going to make this clear, temporarily to fill offices so that we can keep the function of the structure we have, basically. That way you don't have a train wreck, so to speak, in terms of the economy. You don't have everything going in the toilet all at once, or services interrupted, etc. So you're going to have some people appointed temporarily, and it will be specifically stated temporarily. Now, as I understand it, at the end of the 72-hour period, if it takes that long, it may not take that long, at the end of the period of time necessary, 72 hours or less, the public announcement will be made from the press room at the White House. That's according to the plan. The plan has become fluid a little bit because there's been some different things go on that weren't even available in terms of materials, in terms of the types of things that are available now, back when the plan was originally written or basically completed. So it is basically something that is totally awesome. To be a part of something that deals with the rebirth of a country. I feel like I ought to have a musket and some kind of funny looking hat, and be running around the woods hollering Yahoo.